Imagine a woman born into a world where kingdoms fought for survival, where the shadow of European colonizers stretched ever longer across Africa's coasts, a world where the slave trade tore families apart, and empires clashed in brutal wars for land and power. Into this storm stepped Nzinga Mbande, a queen unlike any other. Fierce, cunning, and unyielding, Nzinga didn't just survive, she fought back. Against Portugal's powerful armies, she carved a path of resistance that would echo for centuries. But who was Nzinga really? And how did a woman, born into a small African kingdom, become a legendary warrior queen who outsmarted one of the world's most advanced colonial powers? This is a story of war, diplomacy, betrayal, and a will so strong it changed history. Nzinga was born in 1583 in the Ndongo kingdom in modern-day Angola. Her father was the powerful ruler of Ndongo, and from an early age, Nzinga was groomed to understand the brutal realities of power and survival. Royal life was no fairy tale. It was a game of strategy, survival, and fierce competition. Nzinga learned to speak several languages, including Portuguese, which would later become a key tool in her resistance. But the biggest threat wasn't just rival kingdoms, it was the Portuguese. They had arrived decades earlier, bringing ships, guns, and a hunger for control. By the late 1500s, the Portuguese were building forts, capturing Africans, and forcing many into slavery. The Atlantic slave trade was tearing apart the fabric of African societies. Nzinga's brother, King Mbande, ruled Ndongo during these terrifying times. The kingdom was pressured constantly to submit to Portuguese demands, tribute, slaves, and land. But resistance simmered beneath the surface. When her brother died, Nzinga seized a moment most would shy away from. She claimed the throne. And she did so at a time when it was nearly unheard of for a woman to lead an African kingdom into war. Nzinga's rise wasn't just about warfare. She was a master diplomat, using language and negotiation to buy time and protect her people. Her fluency in Portuguese gave her an edge at the negotiating table. But Nzinga never bowed to the colonizers' arrogance. In 1622, at a peace negotiation, Nzinga faced a moment that would become legendary. The Portuguese governor offered her a chair, a symbol of respect, but also one that placed her beneath him. Nzinga shocked everyone by having one of her servants kneel, and she sat on his back, showing the governor that she would never be subservient, only equal. That bold act sent a message across Africa and Europe. Nzinga was no ordinary ruler. Peace was fleeting. The Portuguese soon renewed their attacks, and Nzinga knew she had to shift tactics. Outgunned and outnumbered, she turned to guerrilla warfare, hit-and-run attacks that used knowledge of the dense Angolan jungles to outsmart the enemy. Nzinga built a coalition of allies, including runaway slaves who found refuge in her kingdom and even the Dutch who were rivals to the Portuguese. Her armies, fiercely loyal and diverse, struck Portuguese forts, disrupted supply lines, and inspired hope across Angola. But Nzinga's leadership wasn't only military. She was a fierce protector of her people's culture and religion, even creating her own Christian court blending African and Christian beliefs, showing how she united tradition with new ideas to strengthen her kingdom. Nzinga ruled for over 30 years, a rare feat for anyone in her time, especially a woman. Her reign delayed Portuguese conquest of Angola for decades and became a beacon of African resistance against colonialism. Though much of her story was hidden or distorted in colonial records, today Nzinga Mbande is celebrated as a symbol of strength, resilience, and unyielding courage. Statues stand in Angola. Her story is taught in schools, and she inspires generations fighting oppression worldwide. Nzinga's legacy reminds us that history is not just shaped by kings and conquerors, but by warriors, diplomats, and leaders who refused to be silenced, especially women who defied the odds. Nzinga Mbande's story is a reminder of the power of resistance, strategy, and leadership in the face of overwhelming odds. Her courage shines across centuries, a true African queen who conquered not just armies, but the very idea that power belongs to a few. If you want to uncover more hidden stories like Nzinga's, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. At Abeni Fact, we bring history's untold heroes to light, and you're part of that journey.